gay Milwaukee. Jinx Ogé here, and we have a terrific guest on the show. The show's editor and my husband, Micah Ogé. How's it going?
Great, it's great. This will be fun.
Yeah, we got you back in for season 2, hey?
Yeah, it's been a while.
So, as we both know, we've talked about this. There's a lot, and I mean a lot, going on in the world right now. Like, not even just America, but just, and tensions are high. What are your thoughts with everything going on right now?
You know, I think for those people who took the time to prepare, those people who took the time to take care of themselves and look inside and in their communities to make sure that they're in a good place, those are the folks who were able to best satisfy the challenges that are in front of us right now. Unfortunately, not everyone got to do that. And because they weren't all able to do that, we're all doing what we can to survive through all of this. And really, this highlights how much we really need each other.
Yeah, I think given there are so many things happening, I'm going to narrow it down a little bit because I feel a lot of social topics are going on right now, and particularly in the Black community. I'm going to bring it up because I feel that one thing we strongly believe at this channel going into this with Gay Milwaukee is that any person who is a victim or at the heart of a discussion should be the voice for the discussion going forward. For example, women's rights. The women should be front and center of that discussion. For LGBT rights, it's always the LGBT community that should be the voice of that discussion. And right now, we see the Black community, and they've been very vocal, and many of us have definitely said they haven't been heard. And not only is that a big issue on its own, but I personally feel that's a huge issue to all of the other groups: women, LGBT, Latinx, Native American, disabled, etc. And we all should be alarmed on top of just the severity of this problem at hand. What are your thoughts?
I mean, in general, it's an alarming situation altogether. I try to be very careful about not overstepping my role and what my place to say what I need to say in this situation. However, you know, this further highlights how essential it is that we start to get to know each other. We all have our struggles. We all have things that we're coming forward from, and the more that we work to get to know and understand those struggles, the better that we'll be able to serve one another. Right now, there's so much that we're witnessing, and there is a matter at hand that needs to be addressed. And as we address that, we need to go into it with open minds, open hearts, so we can make sure that as we go forward, this doesn't continue to be a problem.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought that up, because one thing I've noticed, particularly being in the LGBT community and being a Black person, is people can be very scared to have the conversations, even when they mean well, or even to ask questions. Like, for example, let's bring it back to the LGBT, because we are Gay Milwaukee. I get a lot of the times people will come up to me, Michael, and they'll be like, what do you identify as? And they're so nervous when I'm like, I don't care. You can call me male, female, I don't care. And they're just like, oh, this is sigh of relief. Like, I just didn't want to get it wrong. But it's also, I think as a Black person too, I've noticed there's been a lot more of my white people around me who are like, how can I help without overstepping my bounds or making sure you feel represented doing it the right way? And it's a very nervous dialogue just in general, where people are scared to get canceled, or scared to not get it, or to get it wrong, or scared to overstep their bounds, or just they feel like they're insulting if they even, just the fact that they don't know. What are your thoughts on that?
I mean, that's real, right? It's actually core to our being, right? Some people think they know how to connect with people. They understand who's going to be right in front of them. But in reality, that's not really true. You know, you may be able to come up with some assumptions based on your own experiences, but those experiences are simply yours. The experiences, what else happened for that other person's day, what else happened in that person's life, you have no way of particularly knowing, which makes it essential that we just start to get to know each other. If you go into it again with this open mind where we can and work to try and connect, you know, there's a greater ability for us to actually better understand each other. There's so many people that try to, in their mind, try to immediately land at what are their intentions, what are in their hearts, what's in it for them. And if you go in assuming that somebody is out to get you, you're likely going to conclude that that one is out to get you,
but
whether or not it's the truth.
On the flip side, though, there have been the other sides where there have been people that have felt the need to raise their platform up by being very opportunistic. And there are some people that are very tokenizing, or they go about things for clout, or they go about things in a way that is not genuine, it's not organic. So that's the other side of the equation too, though.
Well, that's the reality, right? And that's for you to learn. But to assume that everyone is out to do that to begin with is part of the challenge that we have, because that is prohibitive for some to even try and get engaged. You know, there's this reality, this situation that we're in today, that folks seem to be unable to connect, right?
Yeah. Can I stop you?
Yeah.
That seemed to have started, from my experience, around that 2016 time period. I think there were such tribal, narratives, even amongst, our own party, whether you were Bernie or Hillary. It was like, we're not having this discussion. It's one or the other. And I think that's when I started to notice people not willing to have the conversations. It was black or white. What do you think?
So it had definitely been highlighted in 2016 as we were preparing for an election, preparing for a change in this country. However, this has been a reality for human beings for probably as long as we've chosen to live together. The reality is that we all come at things with different perspectives, and not everyone is well practiced at working with and connecting with those that have opposing or very different perspectives. We're just not well practiced at that. And that's because of just kind of the nature of how we are. We want to connect with people who are like us. We want to connect with people who have similar interests and similar hobbies and things to do, right? But that means you've surrounded yourself now with folks that are just like you, so then when you have to connect with someone who's now totally different, what do you do? And that is the challenge that we now have to work together to understand.
But it's different now. I think it's different, especially with that time period, because I feel like we live in this social media age where growing up, we didn't have this much information and debatable information at this point in time coming at you non-stop. And I think that also gave people the entitlement to say, I'm right, you're wrong. And I think when you're online too, and you can't turn it off sometimes, people operate differently. And I think it has evolved in a way, and I think there's more information and more of a dialogue, but at the same time, for me, in my experience, I feel like people aren't listening the ways they used to, in my opinion.
I think everyone thinks that they listened, right? But maybe they chose what they were listening to. I mean, the reality that exists in today is that social media has for sure made it possible for those that have these really strong opinions to force those opinions on their followers, their friends, whoever it might be on these social media platforms. However, right, it can work the other way now too. If you're willing to listen to somebody else who doesn't agree with you or may have a perspective or a life experience that's different from you, maybe we have this opportunity now to, again, better understand one another, so now we can actually work together.
Obviously, there's going to be some viewers who think, you might be very idealistic, and that's going to be fine, because I think at the end of the day, this is so experience-driven, especially when we're not all born and meant to do the same things. We talked about how some people in this time are meant to be fighters. There are some people in this time who are meant to be leaders. There are some people in this time who are meant to be healers and help people recover and become better. There are some people who are meant to create these solid ideas that actually do create lasting change. There are so many different roles we're supposed to play, and I don't think there's necessarily one answer. I think my personal view on when it comes to all the cancel culture and such is, I wish there was the more room, and we were ready to have the conversation for redemption culture, having more call out culture, having more of that. Because I think when the first order of business is to deplatform someone, to remove their job, to take away everything, what happens to all these people we do that to? We cancel. And I think it's gotten so crazy I can barely keep up some days.
Folks need to be held accountable when they do wrong. Folks need to be disciplined, need to be coached, need an opportunity to be able to better serve the society that they had harmed in the way that they are. There's a reason why we have the structure that we have today. However, after they've gone through that process, right, after they've put through that effort, we need to give folks a chance to ultimately understand that what they did was wrong and potentially go where they need to be.
Well, I think another thing is too, like, for me, like, I would personally love it if we had a bit more compassion in this day and age so we could actually talk, because I don't even think we can even talk right now. I think this type of conversation we're having right now, you can't have that type of conversation with everybody in this day and age right now. And I think that, as somebody who's very empathic, I try to put myself in the shoes of other people. Like, for example, even though you and I, we both lost a friend to police brutality, if we lost a child, for example, I'm not sure I would have the level of compassion to ask for redemption. Like, I don't think I would even have that in me, and I think that's what makes it or if you're listening to J.K. Rowling, you've been a loyal fan and you're trans, and then you hear transphobic remarks, or if you're any sort of victim from the man in the White House, it doesn't seem possible a lot of the times. And I think that I wonder if is that the new normal? Because I think from my experiences, we've lived in the gay community and we've seen the transition, how when love takes the reins, how much can be accomplished. And I'm very proud of us seeing that in our lifetime, how much the LGBT community has grown and blossomed and flourished, and we got to see that shift. It's just, do you think with all these topics we've been grasping, is it possible, like, because it doesn't feel it some days, especially now.
We're called to a higher standard. We have to be, because human beings cannot continue to live in this fighting society, this argument that seems to regularly be happening. At some point, we're going to need to learn to figure this out. I think it's clear, right, that we get to benefit from a particular privilege that says we can take a step back, we can breathe and try and understand and try and make these connections. However, there's been a lot of harm. There has been a lot of hurt. There have been too many people that have decided to go with hate or fear or anger before they went into love, and that is the challenge that we're currently fighting. If we can create a better environment by talking about this, if as a society we can come together and try and show more love to one another, then we'll be in a position to start these conversations. But at some point, right, someone's got to extend their arm to actually work together.
And I actually believe these conversations, to a degree, are supposed to be hard, because these are the bricks we built America on. This is the DNA of America. This is everything we've stood on to this point, and we're updating, and the programs of thought we've had before are not compatible, so there are going to be those jarring issues that come up every now and then, and it's like giving birth. There's going to be contractions, and it's but I also do firmly believe the only way we're going to get through this is together.
I mean, that's the truth, right? This goes back to what Justice Ginsburg spoke about. This is about bringing as many folks as possible as we can along with us in our progress. And I believe it's possible, so long as we're able to make those connections.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think another thing is too, it may not feel like it right now, but we've talked about this about sexuality as well as skin color. the beauty of there is beauty in our differences, and I think sometimes we forget about that.
There is, actually. The reality is that, again, we all come from different perspectives, different views. We
Walks
have
of
different
life.
backgrounds. We all make different kinds of impacts in the communities that we live and work in and serve in. And that is ultimately what brings this all alive. And actually, that is what makes this country a place where we have the greatest opportunity, the greatest potential out of any other place on this world. We bring everybody together, and we need to leverage that, or we must leverage that, so we can actually meet the potential that we ultimately deserve.
Yeah. Well, I have to be very honest with you. With election season coming up, one of my fears is it's going to get worse before it gets better. Do you have hope for the future?
You know, I have observed that there's been much more engagement in the social conversation and political conversation today. There's been this stigma for the longest time. You know, don't talk about religion, don't talk about politics, don't talk about anything controversial. And the reality is that you don't want to talk about those because they're hard conversations. The only way you're able to make a connection is getting through those. And the other reality is that as an individual, you don't exist in silos within yourself, so you need to be able to talk about those things and express yourself in a way that ultimately better serves whatever situation you're in there. Yeah, of course we have this opportunity to do better. Of course it's going to get better later down the line. How soon that happens is contingent on a particular thing. I talked about the greatest potential we have in this country, but that greatest potential comes alive not only with accepting the diversity of our population, but it's that the diversity of our population gets involved. It is contingent on folks really getting out there, registering to vote, actually voting, actually participating in the process, getting to know our elected officials so they can better represent the values that you and I and our friends, family members, and all of us in the community ultimately live and breathe.
I like that. I like that. And we're going to wrap this episode up, Michael. And on a closing note, we want to say, please protect your energy and continue loving on each other now more than ever. 2020's been rough, but at the end of the day, you and I both know the only way we're getting through this is together, right?
That's right.
We're here at Game Milwaukee, and we are signing out. And before we go, we got nominated for... People were putting nominations in for...
the Shepherd Express, Best
yes.
in Milwaukee.
Yes. So we want to say thank you for that. That meant a lot to see that there's so many amazing, talented people we're in the company with, and that just... From both of us, we just want to say thank you so much. That meant a lot to us. All right, now we're signing out. We're here at Game Milwaukee. Stay blessed, protect your energy, and continue loving on each other. We're signing out.